So I've made the argument for years when it comes to cancel culture that no matter what you do, there will always be another group of people who will be willing to embrace you. Anytime you hear of a comedian being canceled, I'm always like, really? Are they canceled? Because they got a new Netflix special. How the hell can you really call that canceled? What happens is they just lose some of their audience and they regain another one. And that's the argument that I've always made against cancel culture. But this next story I'm going to talk about today just takes it to a whole new level. What people will get behind and what people will support. Get a load of this headline from the Associated Press. Minnesota woman who was charged for using a racial slur against a black child has her fundraising top $800,000. Yeah, this woman threw a racial slur at a black child and then started her basically like a GoFundMe type thing and has raised $800,000 from people who supports her and her garbage. I want to read you a little bit of this article here. It's absolutely crazy that this is the world we live in, and in a world where MAGA can't afford eggs, they can afford to prop up a racist. Minnesota prosecutors filed misdemeanor disorderly conduct charges Tuesday against a woman accused of using a racial slur against a black child at a playground, an incident that the woman has since used to raise more than $800,000 after she appealed for help with relocating. Defendant wrongfully and unlawfully engaged in offensive, obscene, abusive, boisterous, and noisy conduct, or in an offensive, obscene, or abusive language that would reasonably tend to arouse alarm, anger, or resentment in others, the criminal complaint alleges. So, a social media video of the April incident in which the woman admitted to using the slur has garnered millions of views. It showed a man confronting her for using the slur towards the child. She then appeared to double down on the racist term and held up a middle finger to the man who challenged her. As of Tuesday, she has raised over $800,000 on the Christian fundraising platform Give, Send, Go, including many donations that came in after the charges were announced, with a stated goal of $1 million. In her latest update in June, the woman claims she was a victim of silly misinformation. So, one moment it's silly misinformation, and the other minute she's got her middle finger in the air and she's doubling down. That's typical MAGA. Big things are happening regarding our future, she wrote. Life-changing events are at play, and we have all of you to thank for that. I won't go into specifics, but just know that all is well on our end. Keep fighting, keep standing up for yourselves, and keep fighting for the First Amendment. See, this is one of the things that really just gets under my skin about these type of people. They think this is all about the First Amendment, which, by the way, yeah, she's free to say whatever she wants to. She's also free to be held accountable for what she says. But they will spin this that hurling a racial slur at a child is free speech, and she's got people forking out their money to her, and she's got a goal of hitting $1 million, and I'm sure she'll hit it because there's enough gullible racist people out there who will back her up. But get a load of this. The woman was charged by the summons with 3 counts of disorderly conduct. Each carries a maximum penalty of 90 days in jail and a $1,000 fine. Though the actual sentences in Minnesota tend to be lighter, her arraignment is set for October 29th. This was a situation that deeply affected many people, especially our communities of color, and caused real turmoil in our community, said Mayor Kim Norton. We acknowledge the lasting impact this incident has had, not only on those directly involved and across our community, but also in the broader conversations happening at the state and national level. Now, while the complaint lists a Rochester address for the defendant, it wasn't immediately clear if she was still living there, given her stated intention to relocate. The complaint indicated that the police attempts to make contact with her were unsuccessful. Court records said she was since then representing herself. So this is what actually happened. I want to break this down right here because this is what actually happened the day that she hurled the racial slur at this child. So initial reports said that the young victim was 5 years old, but the criminal complaint said he was 8. The child's father told police that his son is autistic, and due to his disability, he doesn't understand typical social boundaries and requires intensive parental supervision. At some point while at the park in Rochester, the child took an applesauce pouch from someone else's diaper bag. The father saw this and chased him to try to retrieve the food pouch. The defendant also saw it and chased the child, who climbed on the playground equipment to get away. She repeatedly called him the racial slur, the complaint said, and grabbed the food item from him. A different person who recorded the confrontation on his phone asked her why she used the slur. The complaint, she said, she admitted to using and said she could if he acts like one. So there she is, doubling down, saying if he's acting like this, I'm going to call him this. But then she's also trying to say that it's silly misinformation and she's raising her money. But the complaint said that she admitted to using it and said she could if he acts like one. When pressed, the complaint said she turned her anger toward the witness, called him the same racial slur, and when confronted about her hate speech, she used profanity to indicate that she didn't care. So, given the sensitive, this is Michael Spindler, who is a city attorney. Given the sensitive and complicated nature of this case, along with the high level of public attention, completing the necessary reviews and conversations with the victim's family took longer than usual. The NAACP chapter started its own fundraising campaign. Now, get this, they started their own fundraising campaign for the child's family, and their GoFundMe has raised $340,000 when it closed in May per the family's wishes. The organization has been working with the family to pursue legal action against the woman in the video. So their child was victimized and traumatized with racist and hateful rhetoric and actions. It's not just the child, the family was impacted. If you have a child and you're going to the park, you should be able to enjoy it. And if the child does something, a responsible adult will talk to the child with empathy, not hate. And that's where she chose to take it. And when she had opportunities, there was no remorse whatsoever. There was no remorse whatsoever, and she was able to raise $800,000 because that's the type of people that Maga is willing to throw their support behind. They'll sit here and tell you the economy's in the tank. They'll sit here and tell you that the eggs are too expensive. They'll sit here and tell you that they can't afford to live, but trust me, they can always afford to throw their money at that type of thing. And then they'll say to us, it's not racist. How could you call us racist? Well, you're donating money to a racist. You're donating money to someone who yelled racial slurs at an autistic child. Those are the type of people we're up against. I know I say that a lot. I realize that I get repetitive in these videos, but I learned something in all of my years of playing music. I played music for over 25 years, and the one thing that I learned is the reason why that songs become hits is because they get stuck in people's head, because the DJ plays them over and over and over and over again. So I'm going to continue to say these things to make sure that they stick. These are the type of people we are up against. When you go to vote, you have to understand the type of people that you are up against. The type of people who would throw their money at a racist who shouted racial slurs at an autistic child. And I say that because I look at it from the angle of, okay, when we go in to vote, we think about everything that it is that we're standing up against. We also think about what we're fighting for, but you do have to stop and say, hey, what is it that we're up against here? And we're up against one of the most hateful groups of people ever, who wants to be able to control the narrative, rewrite history, and reshape history in their own image, and we can't let them do that. We came too far and we made too much progress in this country to let these people drag us back and to let these people reward this type of person. This is the type of person that should be shamed. She's the type of person that should be owing money, not getting it, not being rewarded. And think of how many people out there are truly struggling day to day to make ends meet. You'll never see Maga throw any sympathy toward those people, but they'll get behind a racist woman like this and help her pay her bills because they say, oh, it was misinformation. But they always go back and forth on these things. Oh, it was silly information, but I'm going to double down with my middle finger in the air. That has been MAGA every step of the way. And anytime you're talking with these people, they'll always do that. First, they'll deny that they had anything to do with what you're talking about. And then when you prove to them that, yeah, you said this and you did this, then they'll say, well, I had every right to do it. And then they'll look to Donald Trump for a pardon if it gets too bad. And that's what would happen here. I mean, this woman would look for one from Trump and get away with it. And I really believe that you are the company you keep. So if you hang out with racists and you hang out with criminals and you hang out with insurrectionists and you hang out with rioters, I'm going to assume that you're one, or none of it was ever a deal breaker. And that's the biggest one to me. Racism is never a deal breaker for these people. They'll throw their money at it and then try to gaslight us and say, oh no, we didn't mean it. Yeah, you did. Own it for the racist assholes that you truly are.